What page?
What page are you on?
Page 109. If I'm not mistaken, we are in Parshat Chaye Sarah. We're in Parshas Chaye Sarah. The last thing we did was Abraham had purchased the cave Machpelah in Hebron, and we spoke about that. And we spoke about the whole interaction there with Ephron, and we're picking up in chapter 24. Chapter 24, 8, what?
Which verse?
Chapter 24.
Oh, the first part.
Yeah. Now Abraham was old, well on in years, and Hashem had blessed Abraham with everything. And Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his household, who controls all that is his, place now your hand under my thigh, and I will have you swear by Hashem, God of heaven and God of earth, that you not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. Rather, to my land and to my kindred shall you go, and take a wife for my son, for Isaac. And we're going to go on and read this story. The story is going to be repeated in detail, almost verbatim, word for word, 3 times. And the rabbis in the Talmud tell us that look how many words the Torah uses to speak about just a story. It's not a law. There's no commandments. There's no mitzvot. There are no obligations. This is just a story of Abraham sending his servant to find a wife for Yitzchak. And the Torah goes out of its way to repeat every detail of this story, but not every detail. There are more details in this story than some of the most important mitzvahs in the Torah. And that there are more details on this than that. And not only are there more details, but it's repeated 3 times. Rabbi say because there is so much to learn from the actions of our forefathers, even more than the commandments in the Torah. That just watching the actions and how our forefathers and even their servants lived is there to teach us incredible lessons about life. And the first lesson for tonight is this opening verse. Now I'm going to, especially since we're recording, and of course everyone knows my take on the recordings. Nobody's watching this, nobody's listening, but I know every now and then I get proved wrong, but I'm still going to say it. But I'm saying it, I'm reading in English and I'm going to speak in English just in case someone out there in the world is listening and they don't speak Hebrew. But there are occasions where we have to look at the Hebrew to really get the insight that the Torah is trying to convey to us. Because it says Abraham was old, well on in his years. But that's not what it says in Hebrew. In Hebrew it says, Va'avram zakein, that Abraham was old. Bo bayomim, and he came with his days. And the Talmud immediately asks, what do you mean he's old and he comes with his days? How else do you get old? There's only one way to get old, gentlemen, and that is to not die on that day. That's it. If you die on a day, that's it. You're not getting old. The only way to get old is to continuously live every day. So if a person is old, by definition, they have lived all these days. Why in the world does it say that Abraham came with his days? Because there's a tremendous difference in life between not dying and living. Anybody who is alive today, by definition, didn't die. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're living. And we all, I'm sure in this room, every one of us, we are old enough to know that there are plenty of days that at the end of the day we lay down on the bed and we know very well that we did not live that day. We made it through the day without dying. We just passed our way through. We just coasted through, just waking up and going through the motions of life until the end of the day, and we went to sleep. And hopefully, knowing that maybe tomorrow will be different. But sadly and tragically, too often, the next day is the same. When the Torah says that Abraham was old and he came with his days, that means that Abraham lived every day of his life. Every day, at the end of that day, Abraham laid down and was able to say to himself, I lived today. That is a challenge that someone should embrace. To be able to, at least at one moment, to be able to say at the end of the day, there was at least one moment today where I lived. There was one moment today where I was thankful that I was alive. There was one moment where that if today didn't happen because of that one moment, I would have regretted living. That's living. That is a far cry different than just not dying. Abraham came with his days. Now this story is taking place right after Abraham's wife Sarah has died. And Sarah had died as a culmination of the preceding story of Abraham bringing his son Isaac up to the altar and possibly sacrificing him. And we went through that story at length. But Abraham has come to the realization that, my God, I almost offered my son, I almost slaughtered my son's life almost came to an end, and he's not married. And my wife has died, and I'm going to probably die at some point in the near future. I need to make sure that my son is married. I need to take on that responsibility. And so that's what Abraham does here. He calls his servant, whose name is Eliezer, and we're going to speak about it at some point, not just yet, but you'll notice his name is never mentioned once. In this entire story, he is actually the central figure in the entire story, Abraham's servant Eliezer, and his name will never be mentioned once. So Abraham said to his servant, place your hand on my thigh, and I will have you swear by the God of heaven and the God of earth that you do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of Canaanites, among whom I dwell. Rather, to my land and to my kindred shall you go and take a wife for my son, for Isaac. The servant said to him, perhaps the woman shall not wish to follow me to this land. Shall I take your son back to the land from which you departed? And Abraham answered him, beware not to return my son to there. Hashem, God of heaven, who took me from the house of my father and from the land of my birth, who spoke concerning me and who swore to me, saying, to your offspring will I give this land. He will send his angel before you, and you will take a wife for my son from there. But if the woman that will not wish to follow you, you shall then be absolved of this oath of mine. However, do not return my son to there. Abraham seems very emphatic about two things. Number one, that his son Isaac should not leave the land that they are in and go back to where he came from. That's the one thing. But the second thing that he's extremely emphatic about is that no wife from where they live should be taken for his son. Rather, the wife from where he came from. So you have to ask, that begs the question. If the place where he's sending his servant to find the wife, if that's the choice location, so then why can't Isaac go there? And on the flip side, if the place where Isaac has to remain is right here, and to go back there is disastrous, then why in the world would he want a wife from there? Why wouldn't he want a wife from here? Does everyone hear the two questions? It doesn't make any sense. Either you like where you are, or you like there, or you like both, or you like neither. But here he seems to like, it's like flipping. No. Yitzchak has to stay here. This is the place. But don't take a woman from here. No, you got to take a woman from over there. But don't let my son go there. So then why would you want a woman from there? It's back and forth. And then, on the side note, Abraham seems to throw in, and don't worry, if she won't come with you, then you're absolved from this oath. Why does Eliezer seem to care about being absolved from the oath? Well, the servant placed his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him regarding this matter. Then the servant took 10 camels of his master's camels and set out with all the bounty of his master in his hand, and made his way to Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nahor. He made the camels kneel down outside the city toward a well of water at evening time, the time when the women who draw water come out. And he said, Hashem, God of my master Abraham, may you so arrange it for me this day that you do kindness with my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of the townsmen come out to draw the water. Let it be that the maiden to whom I shall say, please tip over your jug so I may drink, and who replies, drink, and I will even water your camels. Her will you have designated for your servant for Isaac, and may I know through her that you have done kindness with my master. Pause there. So Eliezer is being sent on this mission to find a wife for Isaac. This is a bold mission. I mean, can you imagine the responsibility that's weighing on his shoulders? The greatest man alive has put his trust in him to find a wife for his only son. The burden of responsibility that is weighing on him. And he goes and he's charged to go to his homeland, to Abraham's homeland, and find a woman. From where? He doesn't say go find this woman. He says go back to my family and find a woman from my family. So what does Eliezer do? He prays to God right when he gets to the well, and he says, God, this is what I want to happen. Please, it's in your hands, God. Let it be that whatever woman comes out, and I say to her, can I get a drink? And she says, sure, I'll give you a drink, and let me give your camels to drink too. I will know that's the woman. And sure enough, the very next line is going to say exactly that. And that's where I say it's going to repeat. It's not going to say, and that happened. It's actually going to repeat. And the women came, and he said, can I have a drink? And she's going to say, I give your camels. Is what Eliezer doing right now right or wrong? That's the question. Is what he's doing, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Because on the one hand, you can say, this is a tremendous thing. He's asking God for help. If there's one thing that the Torah seems to constantly convey to us, is that God runs the world. And that the last thing that any of us should walk around thinking is that we run the world. Because that is the oldest lesson in the Torah. That is the oldest lesson. That's the lesson going all the way back to the Garden of Eden. The basic challenge of life comes down to one thing and one thing only. Is God running the world, or do I think I'm God? That's it. Am I God, or is God God? That's it. It is the oldest challenge, and the arrogance of humanity to walk around thinking that we are in charge is incredible. Humility is the greatest attribute you can have. And the way to understand the humility is to call out to God, ask God for help. So here's Eliezer being sent on this unbelievably profound mission that has to be a burden that I wouldn't want to carry, but yet the feeling of pride to being entrusted with such a mission. And yet at that moment, to say, God, please help me. Sounds like a good thing. But on the flip side, the rabbis actually say that there were 3 individuals that asked improperly. There were 3 individuals that asked improperly. And this is one of those 3 individuals. Not tonight, we're not going to have time to go through the other 2. But this is one of those 3 individuals that the rabbis tell us asked improperly. Because what did he say, huh?
For this or overall in the Torah?
There were 3 individuals for this. There were 3 individuals that asked God for something specific or made a pledge for something specific. One of them said, the first thing that comes out of my house I will donate to the Almighty as a sacrifice. And who walked out of his house? His daughter. He asked improperly. You don't make a statement like that. The first thing that comes out of my house, I'm going to donate. You don't know what's going to come out of your house. So Eliezer, the rabbis say, also asked improperly. Look at what he said. The first girl that I say, can I have a drink? And she says, oh, I'll give you the drink and I'll give your camels too. Eliezer's like, that's her. You don't know which girl's going to come first. What if the girl who comes is not fit for Yitzchak? Remember, he's been given power of attorney here. He's been given power of attorney by Abraham. Go get a wife for my son. Whoever you bring back, that's the wife. And if you noticed, it said that he took all of his master's bounty in his hand. Abraham was one of the wealthiest men alive. How do you take all the bounty in his hand? You need truckloads. He took a document, a legal document that said, if you come back to marry Isaac, this will all be yours. All of my possessions. He took a legal document. He had total power of attorney to marry off whoever he saw fit to Yitzchak. And he says, whoever's the first woman who says, oh, I'll give you and I'll give your camels. He's asking him properly. And thankfully, the right woman came out. But what we have to understand is this notion of asking God for help and looking for signs that God's helping us. You see, one should not make decisions based on miracles. You shouldn't make decisions in life based on signs and wonders. That is removing the most primal function of what it means to be a human. To use your free will to think and make decisions. That is the most basic primary function of a human, is to use your abilities to think and make decisions for yourself. Don't rely on anyone else. Don't rely on someone else teaching you. One of the reasons I mentioned Eliezer's name is not in the entire story is because of a tragic error that Eliezer made. He never made a decision for himself. He just followed everything Abraham told him to do. At one point when Abraham is finally promised, we spoke about this, I'm sure we spoke about this, when Abraham was promised that he'd have a son, that he'd become a great nation. Anyone remember what Abraham responded to God?
How would I know?
Huh? Yeah, he said it. Abraham was promised that he's going to be the father of a great nation. He said, how do I know when he said that you'll have a son?
He said if my wife is older or old or something?
Yeah, I don't have any kids. And all I have to inherit my estate is Eliezer Dameski. Eliezer from Damascus. It's the only time in the entire Torah that he's called this. Eliezer the Damascus. And we are told that why is he called Eliezer Dameski? Because Dameski is an acronym. And it stands for Doile Umashke Torasa Shel Rabo. Doile Umashke means to draw and to pour. Draw and pour. All that Eliezer ever did was take everything Abraham had told him and repeated it. That was it. He never said anything. He never made it his own. He never took the wisdom that Abraham taught him and integrated it into his own being, to his own understanding, and then made a decision based on it. The first lesson that we are told about Abraham himself, which means the first lesson we're taught about what it means to be a Jew. I shared this with you guys. I'll share it again. If you have to break up the Torah into sections, now obviously the Torah is already broken up into 5 books. I'm breaking it up into different sections. But if you have to break it up into what the Torah is trying to teach us, the Torah is broken up into the following sections. From the story of creation until Abraham, it's what does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean to be a human being? Because every human being is in the image of God. And every human being basically works very similar. It's not an accident that you can read a book from the 1800s, you can read a Shakespeare play, and it speaks to you. Because human beings are human beings. Nothing changes in regards to what does it mean to be a human. Nonsensical things come and go, and all kinds of things change, but the essence of a human remains the same. So from the story of creation to Abraham is what does it mean to be a human? But once Abraham is introduced, it's now we're going to teach you what it means to be a Jew. And from Abraham until the Jewish people are molded and to go down into Egypt, it's what does it mean to be a Jew? And then from that point to the end of the Torah is what does it mean to be a Jew who's part of the Jewish people? You're not just a Jew, you're a Jew who's part of a nation. So there are 3 stages of the Torah. What does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to be a Jew? And what does it mean to be a Jew who's part of the Jewish people? The first lesson that we are taught about Abraham is to be a thinker. To be a thinker. To learn how to think and make decisions. So to go through life saying, oh God, can you make a decision for me? Is not what you should be doing. And it's not exactly what Eliezer does here. He asked him properly. And thankfully he was answered in the proper way. But he wasn't solely relying on a sign. He was relying on something more. And what he was relying on more, what we'll see as we go on, but this idea of relying on a sign, one should not do that. You should not ask God, show me a sign. Show me a sign. I mean, all kinds of movies like that. There's always some line, oh, show me a sign. Yeah.
In regards to that, do we believe in everything happens for a reason? Because that could be also turned into a sign.
Everything absolutely happens for a reason. Kol bidei shamayim. God runs the world. Everything happens for a reason. But the implication of everything that happens for a reason is very different than I'm going to make my decision based on what's going to happen. One is, now that X has happened, whatever X is,
Right.
now that X has happened, what can I learn from that? What does that teach me about life? What does that teach me about what God's trying to tell me? I was asking the Almighty to do X, and X didn't happen. Okay, why didn't it happen? What can I learn from that?
But that's the thing, a lot of times we don't know, so people tend to use that as a sign that it didn't happen because I'm not supposed to do this.
Right.
Or I'm not supposed to.
Well, clearly I'm not supposed to right now because it didn't happen. That doesn't mean I'm not supposed to at all. It doesn't mean that I'm not supposed to try again. Now, it's not so simple making these analyses. You know, my teacher, Rabbi Weinberg, he told me the following. He said that it's kind of like shooting a free throw in a basketball court. You know, you get a free throw shot. You know, NBA professional players, they could probably hit 95 out of 100. Me, I probably take 95 to hit 1. And hopefully after about 30, I'll actually get the backboard. You know, the first time you pick up a basketball in a full NBA distant court, you know, and you're at the free throw line, this is not high school playground. You know, this is when you were playing horse. Remember? Like, oh, I got an H, right? This is where the distance is intimidating, and then the height of the thing. This isn't from the playground. You barely touch the thing, and the first time you go and throw that ball, you might not even hit the backboard. You might not even reach the backboard. So you realize, oh, I got to throw it harder. So then you throw it with all your might. What happens? It goes over the backboard. Until finally, after a few throws, what happens? After a few throws, you can, oh, you know what? I can actually hit the backboard. A few more throws, I can bank it. And eventually, okay, maybe 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10. With enough practice, you start to get it in the net. And that's the same thing about asking, what is God trying to teach me? Bless you.
Thank you.
It is the same thing by asking the question, what is God trying to teach me? That you have to edit.
I'm not used to it.
It's okay, this camera doesn't see who you are. When you're asking the question, what is God trying to teach me? That's not so simple. And the first time you'll ask it, you're like, I have no idea. What is God trying to teach me? I don't know. And so you'll call a rabbi. What's God trying to teach me? Hoping that the rabbi will be able to give you an answer. You just go, wow, that was so profound. The rabbi's not a prophet. He's not going to give you an answer that's the answer. Because he doesn't have the whole spectrum of your life. He doesn't have the whole parameter of what you were involved in and why were you asking for this and what have you been engaged in and what thoughts have you been thinking. He doesn't have the whole picture. The only person that has the entire picture is you. And therefore, the only one who can really analyze what is God trying to teach me is you. But because you don't have the experience of asking that question, and you don't have the basis and the fundamental foundation of learning about how God looks at the world, that's called Torah, so maybe it's not so simple how to come up with the answer. So it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of, one, learning how does God look at the world. What does God care about? And the more you learn what God cares about, the more you start to have a sensitivity of what things I should be doing, what things I shouldn't be doing. And then once I have that, then it's, okay, what do I think God's trying to teach me right now? And the more you ask that question, the more comfortable you'll be with your answer. That's very different than a crap table. I'm going up and saying, all right, if I get a 7, I'm buying the house. That's what many people do. Many people in life, they look for a sign. And then you can see a sign in anything. Anything could be a sign. When all it was just the normal occurrence of life. Asking for a girl to pour you some water and then offer your camel some water. Anyone could do that. And not only can anyone do that, because anyone could do it, why in the world did Abraham insist that Eliezer go there to get this woman? Someone could have easily done that where he is. So to understand that, we have to understand what exactly Eliezer was doing. He wasn't looking for a sign. Eliezer understood why did Abraham send him home, as opposed to picking a woman from where they are. And then we'll have to answer, so then why can't Isaac leave? But remember, Abraham understands that the land that he is living in is filled with people that are of ill repute. Their character is of ill repute.
Where Eliezer's from?
No, where Abraham is living, Canaan, the land of Canaan.
Oh, I thought he didn't want Isaac to leave because...
No. We're not talking about why he didn't want him to leave. Right now, why did he want a woman from there? Why did he specifically send Eliezer back to his homeland? Where, what are they? Idolaters. They are the antithesis of everything Abraham stands for. They believe in idols. Remember the story of Abraham and his father's factory? Remember that story? The factory with the smashing the idols? Then he's saying to Eliezer, all right, go back and get a woman from there. Go get the treasurer of the factory. She's been working in the factory. I know her. Go get her. Goes against everything Abraham's been teaching. Because Eliezer understood right away. Eliezer understood. Why is Abraham sending me home? Abraham is sending me home because he knows that the women that are living in this country, the women that are living in the land of Canaan, it's not just their ideologies are corrupt. Their character is corrupt. Their character is flawed. And Abraham is telling Eliezer, I want you to go home to my family. Because even though their ideologies are flawed, even though they believe in idolatry, which is the antithesis of what I'm trying to teach the world, their character is not flawed. Their character is still in line with what I'm trying to teach. Which goes to show you something tremendous. What's more important in life is character, not ideology. What is more important in life is character, not ideology, not skills, but character. Abraham tells Eliezer, I want you to go home and I want you to find a woman of character. And that is what Eliezer does. He goes to the well and he says to God, he says, I'm going to make a prayer. And I want you to show me that my prayer is answered. Please, make it easy on me. This task is daunting. The responsibility that I have to find a woman who has to be the mother of the baton of the world. Abraham has to hand the baton off. And I know that is now my responsibility. The woman that I pick, she will be the mother of humanity. Please don't let me fail. But I'm not just, show me a sign, send me a woman. No. I want to show you, God, that I'm looking for the right woman. I'm looking for a woman of character. I'm going to ask her for a drink of water. And you know how I'll know that she has character? Because what will she do? She will say, of course I'll give you water. But I'll give your camels water too. Without being asked. So often, there's some married men in here, so hopefully you made the right choice. But for those that aren't married, you go around and you ask guys, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? You know how often a guy will say, I'm looking for a girl who's nice? I want someone nice. A colleague of mine said, that is the worst thing you can look for. You know who you want to be nice? You want the teller at the bank to be nice. You want the cashier at the supermarket to be nice. You'd like for the telemarketers that call and harass you on your cell phone now, you'd like them to be nice. That's not who you marry. You don't marry someone because they're nice. You know what nice means? Nice means I won't spit in your face. I won't insult you. But will I go out of my way to see to it that I'm taking care of your needs? That's not nice. That's kind. That's compassion. That's considerate. What Eliezer says is, I want a woman who will not just do what she's asked, but will look to see what is needed. That is the responsibility of a person. What is needed. Where there are no people taking responsibility, you should make an effort to take responsibility. And how do you take responsibility? You look around and you say, what is needed? I'm going to ask her for water, but she's going to see that I got a ton of camels and I'm out here on the road. And I'm clearly not from here, which means I've traveled. The first thing you do to a traveler is, do you need something to eat, something to drink? Do you have a place to stay? And I'm going to ask her for just a cup of water. And she's going to see that I have needs. And she's going to say, can I take care of your needs? Then I'll know that I found a woman of character. Her ideologies, she might be an idolatrous woman. I'm not worried about that. You know what? Abraham will take care of that. But character, that's what we need. So sure enough, he makes this prayer and he says, whoever I say this to, then I'll know that you've answered my prayer. And sure enough, look at the Torah says. And it was, he had not yet finished speaking, that suddenly Rivkah was coming out. Rebekah was coming out. She who had been born to Besuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, brother of Abraham, with her jug upon her shoulder. Now the maiden, which is Abraham's family. It says it right there, so he's found basically the niece, the great niece. Now the maiden was very fair to look upon, a virgin whom no man had known. She descended to the spring, filled her jug, and ascended. The servant ran toward her and said, let me sip, if you please, a little water from your jug. And she said, drink, my lord. And quickly she lowered her jug to her hand and gave him to drink. When she finished giving him to drink, she said, I will draw water even for your camels until they have finished drinking. So she hurried and emptied her jug into the trough and kept running to the well to draw water, and she drew for all his camels. The man was astonished at her, reflecting silently to know whether Hashem had made his journey successful or not. And it was when the camels had finished drinking, the man took a golden nose ring. Its weight was a beka, and 2 bracelets on her arms. 10 gold shekels was their weight. And he said, Whose daughter are you? Pray tell me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. And she said to him, even straw and feed are plentiful with us, as well as place to lodge. Gentlemen, I don't know if we're going to get through, but, because next week we're not doing this, but I want to go over the order of the story, because this is very crucial. I told you the story is going to be repeated, almost verbatim with detail. But the next time the Torah tells the story, there's a detail that's slightly changed. Because again, we've already now known the details once. He says, I would like this to happen. Then it happens. They're going to go back to her tent, and they're going to relate exactly what happened. Instead of just saying, and they went and they told her father and her brother what happened. They could have just said those words, and they related to them what happened. No, they go through detail by detail what happened. So I want to go over the details, because one's going to be changed. So what happened? She came, he asked her for some water. She said, of course I'll give you some water, and when you're done, I'll give the camels. And then she went and gave the camels. And then what happened next? She finished drinking the camels. And you notice it says the camels had finished drinking. Gentlemen, have any idea how much camels drink? She was filling the bucket over and over and over until they finished drinking. Not just that they had a drink, till they filled. This is just give you a mindset of what, when she says, the old saying, say a little, do a lot? Yeah. Right there. All right, after she finishes giving the camels water to drink, what happened next? Anyone follow?
Take a nose ring?
Yeah?
And then the
bracelets. And the bracelets. In other words, as soon as she finishes doing what he had asked, he immediately gives her the jewelry. And what does giving her the jewelry mean?
Welcome to the family.
That's right. Welcome to the family. And then what does he do? After. Who are you?
Who are you? Like, so weird.
Did anyone catch that?
Yeah, trust me, I did.
Nice.
You didn't catch that?
Yeah,
as soon as she finishes, he doesn't even know who she is. Can I have some water? Sure, you can have some water. Okay. Oh my God, you gave my camels? Listen, I'm here on a mission. You clearly see I'm wealthy. Look at the size of this ring. When you guys, those of you who are married, when you give your wife a ring, did she go like that? Or did she go, okay, all right, he's a nice guy.
Hey, look at the jewelry.
He right away, he said, I'm here, and I'm here to find a wife for my master. Here's a ring just to show. Whoa. I mean, it told you the weight of this ring, and here's some bracelets. Are you willing to be his wife? And by the way, who are you? And it's only then the Torah told us, the Torah told us, the reader, who she was. But he didn't know. He's only finding out now who she is.
She definitely wasn't 3 years old.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We're not getting into that.
I'm just kidding.
No,
When they go home to the tent, when they go home to the tent and they relate the story, you'll notice there's be a change in the order of the story. So she said, I'm the daughter of Bethuel, there's plenty of straw. So the man bowed down on the next page. So the man bowed low and prostrated himself to Hashem, and he said, Blessed is Hashem, God of my master Abraham, who has not withheld his kindness, and truth from my master. As for me, Hashem has guided me on the way to the house of my master's brothers. You're going to notice two things. I'm going to bring this up again, but you notice as soon as he accomplishes his mission, the first thing he does is thanks God. The maiden ran and told her mother's household according to these events. Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban in English. Doesn't do it justice.
Yeah.
Laban ran to the man outside to the spring, for upon seeing, there you go. For upon seeing the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's hand, and upon hearing his sister Rebekah's words, saying, "Thus has the man spoken to me," he approached the man who was still standing by the camels by the spring. He said, "Come, O blessed of Hashem! Why should you stand outside when I've cleared the house and place for the camels?" You can already get a sense of who Lavan is. Lavan runs out to see him when? Here, see, you asked, is he bribing the family? He didn't bribe her.
Entice.
Right, entice, but not to her. Her, he gave her the ring, but it doesn't say it in the words, but it doesn't say that she accepted because of the jewelry. It says he gave her the jewelry. Now, the implication is that that's not really part of the story in terms of why she agrees or not agrees. It's just he gave her the jewelry. We understand from our commentary that we have that he told her why and then gave her the jewelry as the contraction, as the contractual obligation. But you notice when it comes to the brother, it says explicitly, he saw the jewelry. And then it says, and he heard what his sister had to say. And then he ran out. Meaning, all he cared about was the jewelry. He saw the jewelry. And then he runs out. What are you doing out here? Come on, come home. His name is Lavan. He is going to come up time and time again. We're going to see him and hopefully one day we'll get to him. But his name means white. Lavan is the ultimate sinister because he presents himself as being this innocent person, well-meaning, white, pure, loving, kind. Oh, please come to my tent. But it's only white on the outside. Underneath is a conniving, selfish narcissist who just wants the gold. That's all he wants. He saw the gold. He's like, "Whoa, what are you doing with this gold?" And then she said, "Well, there's a guy here, and what? Get him in the house." Now watch this. So the man entered the house and unmuzzled the camels and gave straw and feed for the camels and water to bathe his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. Food was set before him, but he said, "I will not eat until I have spoken my piece." And he said, "Speak." And he said, "A servant of Abraham am I." Put yourself in these shoes. I've told you this time and time again. I'll tell you again, and hopefully I'll just keep repeating it until this is, there's a few things that I hope that I teach that will be ingrained. One of them is make the stories real. If they're not real, they are worthless. Put yourself in Eliezer's shoes. You have been sent on a mission by one of the wealthiest humans alive. With all of his wealth at your disposal. How do you feel?
Under pressure.
Huh?
Under pressure?
Under pressure as regards to the mission. But how do you feel? There you go. Empowered. Empowered.
Is that true for sure?
Absolutely.
But not necessarily, because he thought like his family and his daughters can be.
He wanted, that's what he wanted. But Abraham, that's outside information that we didn't bring in. But one of the reasons that Abraham, we didn't speak about it, Abraham made him swear. Why did he make him swear? So you're bringing up a point that we can't talk about every detail in the Torah. We won't get anywhere. But one of the details that Abraham made Eliezer swear. Why did he make him swear? Why is this so heavy? Because Eliezer actually had aspirations for his own daughter to marry Isaac. And Abraham said, no, I'm sorry, that's not for you. Okay? But I'm entrusting you to find a woman for my son. And I'm giving you all the resources at my disposal. And now you're going to a foreign land, and you show up, nobody knows you. Remember, you're no longer trying to get your daughter. You're trying to accomplish a mission now for your master, who you love dearly. You followed him to the end of the world. And you show up with all of this power at your disposal. How do you feel? Empowered. And I went back east just a few weeks ago. A dear friend of mine was appointed a position in the State Department. And he was sworn in by the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State is empowered by the President. That's what he carries the weight of the President. As they always say, I serve at the pleasure of the President. Trust me. When the Secretary of State flies over to a foreign country and walks into a dignitary's building, you can be sure that he feels empowered. But it's not his power. It's the power of the President. But you can be sure that he walks in, Secretary of State. Secretary of State. Eliezer, put yourself in his shoes. He shows up with 10 camels, and now you see another detail. Not just 10 camels, servants. He shows up with his own servants. And he walks in, and how do you think they're treating him? Especially Lavan. Lavan sees, look at all this wealth. How do you think he's treating him?
Royalty.
Like royalty. Now you don't think that can go to your head? You don't think you can play with that for a little while? I'm here on a mission. All right, let's start talking. I'm here to find a wife. All kinds of action behind me. Get some curtains or something. Sit down. Does anyone here need to know that I'm a slave? Why do they need to know I'm a slave? I'm here on a mission. And it's my say. I could decide to give you all this wealth. I could say, sorry, not for you. Depending on how you treat me. It's at my disposal. I've been given charge. I've been given power of attorney. I am Abraham's power of attorney. I can do whatever I want. And what's the first words he says? The first words out of his mouth. I'm a slave of Abraham.
That's a good title too, by the way.
That's a good title too. But gentlemen, I'm here on a mission. And the one thing I will not allow that mission to do is create arrogance. I will maintain my humility. I will maintain my understanding that this is not about me. This is not about my power and what you can blow my way and make me feel all important, because that feels good. Trust me. That feels good. You don't think it feels good? I'm in a room and I'm there because someone's being honored and the whole world is looking at them, and that person on the podium says, oh, my rabbi. No. You got to keep that arrogance in check, because it is something that can swallow you faster than you can blink your eye. Ego is the most destructive force that we have. Destroy you in an instant. And the first words out of Eliezer's mouth are, I'm a servant. Yeah.
When Eliezer says Hashem's name, do these people actually know who Hashem is, since they're idol worshippers?
Well, you have to remember, Abraham has created a name for himself.
Right.
He has certainly spread the idea. They know the concept of God. The concept of God is a reality. The only difference is they believe in multiple gods. So for their perspective, the Jewish God, Abraham's God. They don't understand that he's saying, no, the God of the whole world. Yeah, Abraham's God.
So their decision to be idol worshippers is actually their decision, and it's not from a lack of understanding or knowledge.
Well, it is a lack of understanding and knowledge because they believe there's multiple gods.
But
They
they've
don't.
been exposed to
They,
Hashem.
well, they've been exposed to the concept of Abraham's God. Oh, Abraham's got his God. We've got our God.
Yeah, but didn't they see what happened to him when he was younger and survived? No influence?
People can block out whatever they want.
How many years after is this from
This is
creation
quite
to
some
now?
time. This
No,
is
from
quite some
creation-
time.
From creation.
Oh, from creation? Just under 2,000. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I want to finish the story. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A quick question.
On what we've done?
Yes.
Okay.
Was Rebecca and Laban's family of affluency as well, or were they like middle class? Where were they on the?
Well, you have to keep in mind. I don't know. You know, it's like asking. Bill Gates' brother. Bill Gates' brother is poor. I don't know. I mean, Abraham himself came from a well-to-do family. He definitely came from an upper class family. I mean, his father was a major idol manufacturer.
Importer. Right?
You know, he was an idol import exporter.
It does say.
And that was certainly at the time. And it says there's plenty. We've got plenty, but not the wealth of Abraham. You know, it's like a multi-millionaire meeting a billionaire.
Yeah, gotcha.
You know, I did a bris the other day for a grandson of a billionaire.
Oh wow.
Yeah. You guys ever hear of Hot Pockets?
Yeah.
He owns it.
Huh?
He ons it.
You know, he was created by a Persian Jew.
Yeah.
Hot Pockets.
I
You
didn't know
knew
he was
that?
Jewish. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I know he's Persian.
Persian Jew. He even said to me, he's like, you ever hear of Hot Pockets? I said, yeah. He says, would you believe it? 2 Persians. 2 Persian brothers. two Persian Jewish brothers. They sold it to Nestle.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he doesn't own it anymore, but they created it. Anyway, all right. I hope he never sees this.
Edit.
So he's coming from. So Abraham's family is definitely well-to-do, but they're not the wealth of Abraham.
Gotcha.
Abraham's wealth is in a different league, and that's why Laban's like, whoa! This is the next step, guys. Get this guy in here. This guy in here.
What's considered wealth at that time? Like jewelry, camels, servants?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
All the above.
All the above. Real
Flock is like
wealth.
Commodities.
Commodities, real wealth. Land, animals,
Slaves.
food.
Everyone's a farm back in the days, right?
Well.
Land, animals, food. That was real wealth. If you had that, you had wealth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? As far as genetics, if we're our genes are from Laban, his daughters were married to Jacob and all this. Someone said like, you know, God forbid, I'm not saying everyone, but the trickery of the Jews in our lifetime, you say it comes from that gene. That gene. Is there anything?
Trigger.
No, I'm serious. So you have to
Yeah, the Jews. Come on, haven't you ever bought diamonds? You're always trying to trick you,
Is
sell
that
you.
a joke or is that possible?
But what I just did was a joke.
No, not you, but we're talking.
Well, that's a story later. We're not up to that.
Okay, fine.
But isn't the slave of Abraham a lot more powerful and respected than some what they got? Because this is like Abraham, the guy who made a revolution.
Well, I'll answer this. Does Eliezer become part of the Jewish people?
I have a point.
Yeah. I always thought the same thing though.
Yes.
I have a point.
Yeah. So what?
Shoot.
So what? So he has a Jewish name. You know how many non-Jews have Jewish names? Some of the popes have Jewish names.
So he wasn't.
Saint Michael. Michael is a Jewish name. Michael. So just because someone has a name that's Jewish doesn't mean they're Jews.
Chazan Jewish name.
Huh? What?
It's not a Jewish name.
That's a biblical.
Chazan angel.
Yeah.
Angel's for
Okay.
everybody.
Right, okay.
But it's from a Jewish source.
So?
From
Okay, Saint Joseph.
And
Joseph.
here, Andrews, Rabbi.
Joseph. Okay, Joseph.
Rabbi, let's
Okay. All right. So he says, I'm a servant. Abraham, Hashem has greatly blessed my master, and he prospered. He has given him flocks, cattle, silver, gold, servants, maidservants, camels, donkeys. Sarah, my master's wife, bore my master a son after she had grown old. Look at that. I just told you, my master is ridiculously wealthy and he's got one child. One boy. And he gave him all that he possesses. My master made me take an oath. Do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I dwell, unless you go to my father's house and to my family and take a wife for my son. I said to my master, perhaps the woman won't follow me. He replied to me, Hashem, before whom I have walked, will send his angel with you and make your journey successful, and you will take a wife for my son from my family and my father's house. Then will you be absolved from my oath, when you have come to my family. And if they will not give her to you, then you shall be absolved of my oath. I came today to the spring, and I said, Hashem, God of my master Abraham, if you would graciously make successful the way on which I go, behold, I am standing by this spring of water. Let it be that the young woman who comes out to draw, and to whom I say, please give me some water to drink from your jug, and who will answer, you may also drink, and I will draw water for your camels too. She shall be the woman whom Hashem has designated for my master's son. I had not yet finished meditating when suddenly Rebekah came out with a jug on her shoulder and descended to the spring and drew water. And I said to her, please give me a drink. She hurried and lowered her jug from upon herself and said, drink, and I will even water your camels. So I drank, and she watered the camels also. Then I questioned her and said, whose daughter are you? And she said, the daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him. And I placed the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her hands. And I bowed and prostrated myself to Hashem and blessed Hashem, God of my master Abraham, who led me on a true path to take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. And now, if you intend to do kindness and truth with my master, tell me. If not, tell me, and I will turn to the right or the left. Anyone notice what changed?
Different order.
You notice what changed?
The ring.
Flip the order. He told over the story and he said, I got there, I said my prayer, I made it out that I want to make sure that this woman has character, that this woman has kindness and compassion, and is not just doing what I asked, but looks and sees what's needed, and I saw that this is her. And I asked her, who is she? Because I need to find someone from my master's house. And when she told me that she's from my master's house, I said, would you like to marry my master's son? Here's the jewelry. No, that's not what happened. You gave her the jewelry first. Why didn't you say that? You switched the order.
Intentionally? Or?
Absolutely intentionally. What would Lavan and Bethuel have thought of this man had he said the proper order?
Sucker.
Huh?
It's a sucker.
There you go. We got a fool here, gentlemen. This guy's a fool.
Just not jewelry.
He comes, he says, oh, whoever comes on out and does this, that's the woman, and he gave her the jewelry. You said that you made a promise to pick someone from the family. You made a promise to pick someone from the family. How did you know she was from the family? You gave her the jewelry? You want us to give our daughter to you? You're a fool. You're a fool. He understands that immediately and realizes, I can't tell them that's what I did. They'll think I'm a fool. But if he thinks if he says they'll think I'm a fool, so then why did he do it that way? And the answer is very simple. The only reason they'll think he's a fool is because they don't believe in Hashem. The only reason they would think he's a fool is because they would say, that's not the way to do it. Why not? Why isn't that the way to do it? Remember, he wasn't just relying on a sign. He had very specific instructions. He told Hashem, I'm not relying on a sign. This isn't a crap table. God, I have to find a woman of character. You're the Almighty. I work for Abraham. This isn't about me. This is about Abraham. I've seen what you do for Abraham. Clearly, you're not going to mess Abraham up. And I'm not going to mess Abraham up by making a bad decision. I'm going to find a girl of character. But you're the Almighty. You run the world. So send the first girl that does that. That's all. Send the first girl that does that to be the right one for Abraham. You run the world. Hakol bidei shamayim. Hashem runs the world. Is anything too hard for the Almighty? The only reason that you don't think that that's the right way to do it is because you don't believe Hashem runs the world. When you believe Hashem runs the world, you know what you can do? You can turn your phone off on Shabbos. When you believe Hashem runs the world, you don't have to check the stock prices when you're davening. Because you don't have to take because Hashem runs the world. When you know Hashem runs the world, you have the ability to do things that other people would say,
It's crazy.
that's crazy. When you know Hashem runs the world, when you know that there's a God and that God runs the world, then you have the ability to do things that others will say is crazy. But you know what this tells you? What this tells you is that you keep your level of your relationship to God between you and God. If you choose to do something using your common sense and rational thinking, not your blind faith, the crap table, I really want to rely on God. No, you think. You make a decision. You've thought it out. You say, this is the right way to do this. And then after that, I'm going to leave it up to the Almighty. And you've made your decision based on logic and common sense while relying on the Almighty. Once you've done that, you keep it to yourself.
Can you explain that deeper?
Trying to think of a practical example.
What would Hashem do or think?
No. Okay. My rabbi, I'll give you an example. My rabbi of blessed memory would not wear a seatbelt. Wear a seatbelt. If you tell people that, my rabbi doesn't wear a seatbelt, you know what they'll say? That's crazy. It's irresponsible. And he didn't flaunt it. He didn't stand up in front of the yeshiva and say, I don't wear a seatbelt. Those that were very close to him. He would explain why. And he's very logical. But if you're not on the level of understanding that God runs the world that he's on, you know what you'll say? Crazy. And his rationale was very, very clear. He says, why do you wear a seatbelt? Why do you wear a seatbelt? So if God forbid you get in an accident, you don't get hurt as much. That's why you wear a seatbelt. There's no other reason to wear a seatbelt. They're not comfortable. You wear a seatbelt so that if God forbid you get in an accident, you don't get hurt as much. So what, you think you're going to outsmart the Almighty? If God wants you to get hurt, it goes back to everything happens for a reason. If there's some calculation in the Almighty's grand plan that you're supposed to get X amount of injury, so what, you're going to outsmart God by putting on the seatbelt? You'll get the same injury. Just this time it'll be different. So instead of a broken collarbone, you know what you'll have? You'll have 3 times as much insurance to pay.
But isn't that going against the mitzvah of take care of your body and soul?
Yeah.
So again, how am I not taking care of my body and soul? Again, why do I wear a seatbelt? See, there you go. See, I actually just demonstrated what I was trying to teach, in case anyone didn't notice it.
No, I get what you're saying. But...
Okay, so here you go. I will demonstrate again, and I'll even flush it out more. Why do you wear a seatbelt? There is only one reason to wear a seatbelt. So that if I get in an accident, I don't get injured as much. That's the only reason to wear a seatbelt. If you have a different reason, please tell me.
Ticket.
Okay, no.
Or God forbid die.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's hurt as much. That's hurt worse. That's a bigger risk. But that's if I. But again,
If I were to die.
if I get in an accident.
Right.
So therefore,
But-
what is my mitzvah? You asked the question. Let me finish.
No, but there's
You asked the
nothing
question. Let me finish. The only reason to wear a seatbelt is if I get in an accident, not to get a ticket, because that's That's the trickery. So I'm going to obey the law just so I don't get in trouble. So I'm only wearing a seatbelt so I don't have to pay a fine. The only reason I don't steal from the bank is because I'm afraid I might get caught. The only reason I don't run a red light is because I don't want to get a ticket. No. Here, it's absurd. The only reason to wear a seatbelt, listen carefully, the only reason to wear a seatbelt is if I get in an accident, I don't get hurt as bad. Obviously, death is worse. Okay, that fits into the parameter. I don't get hurt as bad. I don't die. I don't get paralyzed. I don't get hurt as bad. I'm wearing a seatbelt. Okay, so what is my commandment? What is my obligation as a Jew? To see to it that I don't get into an accident. Did everyone catch that?
Well, you don't always control.
Oh, exactly. I don't control. So when it's out of my control, who's in control? The Almighty. So if the Almighty is now in control, and He demands that I get into an accident, even though I've done everything in my power to see to it that I don't get into an accident. So now it's because of some other schmo. What? I got into an accident because of some other schmo? No. Some other schmo drove irresponsibly, and God used that as the tool for me to get into an accident. It's not because I'm in an accident because someone's driving irresponsibly. I'm in an accident because God sees you need to be in an accident. For whatever reason, I'm not God. So my responsibility as a Jew to take care of myself is you don't drive like a reckless fool. You're a responsible person. You have to take care of yourself. You have to drive responsibly. Therefore, you can't speed, you can't run red lights, you can't drive recklessly. That's your responsibility. Oh, once it's out of your responsibility, so whose hands is it in? It's now in the hands of the Almighty. That's what it means to be a Jew. I can see none of you agree.
No, I 100% agree.
One second, so let me finish. So now when it's out of your hands, that's the point that I was saying before. That was Eliezer. Oh, this is so beautiful. I'm glad you asked. I gotta take off my sweater though.
You're getting ready for war, huh?
I'm
getting ready for war.
Listen, now that it's out of your hands, this was Eliezer. Eliezer, what did Eliezer do? Eliezer gets there and he says, okay, God, I'm not asking for miracles. I'm not asking for a sign. I'm not shooting a craps table. I'm going to do what's in my power to do. What's in my power to do? I'm looking for a girl who's got character. That's what I need. A girl who's got character. Now that I've told you what I want, the rest is out of my hands. So now, God, send me the girl. What's the difference? What difference does it make if I go and I start asking everybody, hey, where's Abraham's family? Where's Abraham's family? Where's Abraham's family? What do I need to do that for? I told you, God, what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to find a girl that has character. Okay, now it's up to you. You're going to make it I either find her today or I find her in 5 days from now. What's the difference? That's out of my ability. Oh, no, it's not. You can find her on day one. No, I can't. Because let's say I find out where they live. Maybe they're on vacation. So whether I find her right away or I find her in 3 weeks from now, that's out of my control. So once it's out of my control, what do? It's up to you, God. There is the fine line. There is the fine line. When something is in your control, you do everything you need to do. Once it is clearly out of your control, you ask the Almighty. Okay? Everyone got that so far?
Yeah.
But you haven't addressed all the
I've
places.
totally addressed it, but I'll readdress it. One, if it's in your control, no, I'm good. But if it's in your control, you do what you need to do. Once it gets to the point that it's out of your control, it's up to the Almighty. So what's in my control, Eliezer says, is I got to find a girl of character. What's out of my control? How long it's going to take me to find it. That's out of my control. How long it's going to take me to find it. So God, make it happen right away. I can ask God for that. Okay, driving. What is in my control? What is in my control is to drive like a safe driver. As long as I'm driving like a safe driver, the only reason I will get into an accident is because God wants it. Because it's out of my control. And therefore, if God wants me to get into an accident, and God wants me to get injured, God forbid, Rahman al-Islam, well then I'm going to get injured. And by putting on a seatbelt, I'm not going to prevent that. I'm not going to circumvent God's plan.
But you're minimizing the risk.
No, because God also
No!
knows the exact amount
What?
of
What? There's not other ways? Okay, so you got your seatbelt on. What? People haven't died with their seatbelt on? Do you know there's cases of people dying because they had their seatbelt on?
Yeah.
Okay, so fine. So you minimize the risk of getting physically injured. What? There's not other injuries? There's not financial
He's
obligations?
saying if it's not your,
That's it. It's out of your control.
It's like Final Destination.
And therefore, so now, here you go. Watch this, gentlemen. If you are on that level of clarity, of understanding that God runs the world, then you have every right to say, I'm not going to wear a seatbelt. If you think for one iota that what the rabbi did was foolish, then God forbid you don't wear a seatbelt. Because you're relying on a miracle. And how dare you rely on a miracle? Because you're not on that level. And therefore, you better put on a seatbelt.
Because that's what logic would tell you.
Because that's what logic would tell you to do.
But
Do you follow?
yeah,
but that example is a little bit different than saying like I'm gonna run across the highway and hope a car doesn't hit me.
No,
Right?
it's totally different.
It's kind of
And saying, no, it's not. So for you,
Just run a car?
No,
It makes it different?
no, because that's in your control. It's in your control to run out in the middle of the street. You don't run out in the middle of the street.
What about a
But
motorcycle?
it's just,
Would
it
you
would
drive
be the
without a
same
helmet?
as saying like,
Depends.
I
It
got
depends
sick.
where. It depends where.
On the freeway.
I'm not gonna take medication.
Huh?
I'm supposed to be sick. I don't want to take the antibiotics. I should be sick.
Actually, now they're
No,
coming
no,
to
it's
say
not
it's
the
better
same.
not to take it.
Not the same.
So-
Not the same. We don't have time to go into that. That's not the same. Huh? Not the same. Okay, so again, now, well, let me finish up now. Now, let's say that you actually do believe and live on that level. You live on that level. You know what you don't do? You don't go around telling people. You don't publicize it. Why? Because it makes someone who lives on the level of walking with Hashem look like a fool.
But someone else is publicizing it.
No, he's passed away. He's dead.
Doesn't matter, you're still publicizing it. That
He
example.
passed away. He passed away. I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah, but
if he was alive, I wouldn't tell you.
We understand that.
So can someone take that logic in a different way? Like, for example, because I'm facing this situation, so someone I'm working with does the bare minimum, and his excuse is, God is there for me. Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. And I'm like, no, you have to work. You have to like do things to make things happen. But his logic is, no, if God's with me, like.
So again, is it possible that what he's saying is true? Absolutely. Is it possible that what he's saying is irresponsible? Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no there's no way for me to determine that, and guess what? There's no way for you to determine it either.
In a sense, I can't
Or
know
him.
what's going on.
He can't determine it either, right?
Huh?
He himself, the person.
No, the
saying-
person himself is
Yeah,
the
if
only
he
one.
holds on
He's
that
the
level.
only one who can determine it.
No, because his rabbi is the one who's like telling him all these things, whereas his brother spoke to
Is he on that level? Is he on that level? And is he doing, for what level he's on, everything that he should and can do? If he is,
So the
then
thing
it's not
is,
irresponsible.
It is. I see it as irresponsible in the sense that because
I
everything
know you do.
No,
But that's-
because if I say do X, Y, and Z, he's gonna do the minimum and give excuses and be irresponsible.
So
about it.
again, is it an excuse or is it a reason?
So can I deduce from what you're saying that
It depends. It depends on who he is. It depends on what level his relationship with the Almighty is, and what kind of real belief he has, and what level of effort is he doing.
So yes, strong emunah, I know that.
Okay, but what level of effort is he doing? Look, the Rambam. But in that minimum effort, see that here's the point. In that minimum effort, the effort that he's doing, is he doing the maximum amount of effort in that? For example, if he thinks, okay, you know what I have to do? I'll give you an example, just an example of what he
Work
does.
2 hours a day.
Huh?
So for example,
He has to work 2 hours a day. During those 2 hours, is he working?
yes,
Is he putting everything into it?
and
Then he's there. Then it's possible he's doing all he has to do.
Yeah, but
And it's possible that he's very irresponsible.
So I tested it, and then I ended up doing.
You can't test it.
No, because I let him do his thing, right? So for 1 month I let him do his thing. No results came out of it. I come back, I put 2 hours of work. Results came out of it.
That doesn't prove anything.
No, because in his 2 hours of work,
That doesn't prove anything.
It doesn't, but like he doesn't.
Your capabilities make you
That doesn't prove anything.
What I'm trying to say is,
There are people that put 50 hours of hard work into building a business and never get anywhere past month to month. And there are people that make the most minimalistic effort and make billions overnight.
no, it's like,
It's so true. So like, who cares that you put in 2 hours and it worked and he didn't?
No, so when I called him out, he's like, okay, you're right, I was wrong. So I'm like, listen, if you face a problem, at least try to like work around it and figure it out. But his logic's like, listen, it is what it is. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I'm not gonna go around it. He already left, but like at that point, I'm like, what are you saying, dude? Like you can't think like that. You gotta like actually figure out.
I gotta run.
Oh no.
I gotta run. Oh, thank you so
Why
much.
was it being repeated, the story, 3 times?
There's reasons for
I said that in the beginning. To teach us the lesson that there's more to learn from the stories and the actions of our forefathers.
it. Like every time, like the second time you switched it up, there's something to learn from. Why you
Also,
switched it up.
And also the importance, we're talking, just also another, I mean, there's so many things, but the weight of finding the right spouse, the weight of finding the right wife is paramount to what it means to live life.
Was she really 3 years old?
Because on that.
Because this rabbi told me, I'm like, there's no
I gotta
way
run,
she's
I'm late.
Physically, but not in a maturely.